Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of your DevPed Tita. So I am Dr. Christine Cusi, a developmental and behavioral pediatrician from Cebu City. And my partner is Dr. Victoria Ang Nolasco, a DevPed also from Manila. So, di ba ngayon lately parang narinig na lang po natin palagi mga bad news. But you know, one way that we can make this world a better place is to create a culture of kindness at home. One person at a time po natin mababago ang mundo. So this afternoon, we have one of a kind event. Okay, so meron kami KIND. Tignan niyo po anong ibig sabihin ng kind. We will talk about teaching kindness to your children and ways to discipline them effectively. So for this afternoon, meron po tayong isang special DevPed Tita na guest. Okay? She is also one of our mentors when we were in training. Our guest is the head of the section of developmental and behavioral pediatrics at the Medical City. She is also the head of the University of the Philippines, Philippine General Hospital Access Hub for the children with developmental disability. She's also an associate professor in pediatrics at UPPGH. So we would like to introduce none other than our special guest, Dr. Stella Manalo. But before I pass on the mic to her, may gusto po yata sabihin si Doktoya.
Thank you sa aming audience at sumali kayo sa amin ngayon. Talagang napakahalaga ng topic na ito at madaming magulang ay nagtatanong sa amin. So kung meron kayong mga tanong na paano ang tamang pagdidisiplina ng mga bata, paano sila maturuan ng mga magagandang asal, anong mga pwedeng gawin para sa mga problema katulad ng mga bullying at iba pa, nasa tamang lugar po kayo at makinig po tayo sa totoong expert. Expert po siya hindi lang po sa kanyang experience as a developmental pediatrician, ngunit she has successfully raised children of her own who are now adults and who are kind and who are successful. So napakaswerte po talaga tayo at nandito siya ngayon. Doc Stella.
Ay, ano ba to? Good afternoon. Ayan. Hello, good afternoon. Ako ang bait-bait nyo, Dr. Cusi and Dr. Nolasco. Dapat sila ang resource speaker dito. At knowing them, they have been such kind and good students when they were training under me. I think I prepared a little something, mga 4 slides lang naman. Let me share. Okay, can you see this? Okay, kita mo na? Okay, and you can hear me? Sige,
Yes.
So some basic principles lang on kindness before we talk about discipline. Okay, so ang unang when Dr. Nolasco invited me, ang unang pumasok sa isip ko syempre hindi ko mahindian yan, umuo ako. Pero sabi ko, why me? I wondered because that's not one of the adjectives people would label me as being kind. Ang feeling ko nga maraming ibang tao diyan who were born kind. Talagang feeling ko bata pa kind na sila. Ako hindi yan ang adjective na gagamitin ko sa sarili ko. Pwede siguro matalino, masipag, reliable. I keep my word, but kind is not one of those that I would describe myself. So nung inimbita ni Dr. Nolasco nga yung buong section ng PGH DevPedia, ang sabi ng mentor ko, si Dr. Alexis, bakit si Stella? Napaisip talaga ako. So what is the difference between the time na Dr. Alexis first knew me as a medical student and resident to the time I mentored Dr. Nolasco and Dr. Cusi? Tingin niyo ba sa akin mabait, Dr. Cusi?
Opo, ma'am.
Dr. Nolasco.
Nandun po yata sa baby, ma'am.
Oo nga, narinig ko nga si Jake umiiyak. Well, ang 10 to 15 years was between the time na una akong nakilala ni Dr. Alexis at nung time na minentor ko kayo. Siguro in that time, I matured and I grew. Tapos naisip ko rin noon yung teacher ng eldest son ko. My eldest son is now 29. Nung high school siya, meron silang math teacher na yung buong klase bumabagsak. So I went to talk to this teacher during the parent-teacher conference. Aba, I didn't recognize him dahil he looked younger pa than his students. Tapos nalaman ko, he's a new graduate from college. Tapos medyo mathematical genius pala siya. He graduated at the top of his class. Aba, gifted dito sa math. Kaya pala hindi niya ma-explain sa mga students niya yung he couldn't get down to the level of his students and simplify and explain in a way they could understand. Tapos yung test na para sa kanya madali, yung mga estudyante niya bumabagsak. So ito yung message. I guess your best teacher is someone who also struggles with this, no? Someone who, like most others, may not have been gifted with kindness and has to learn and work hard to be kind. Kasi I believe that all of us want to be kind. And all of us have that potential. But for most of us, it really requires a constant and conscious effort to choose to be kind. Okay. So paano ako natuto? Well, I really learned from children themselves. Sabi ko, ang mga bata ang greatest teachers ko. And I'm lucky to be surrounded by children. My career choice as a pediatrician, but more so, I think when I became a mother. And most of us dito are blessed to have our own children kasi our children teach us to be better people. Children help you to grow and mature. Eh, sa mga walang anak dyan, I'm sure you have mga pamangkin, you have extended family, so you have contact with children. As a DevPedia and child protection specialist, kasi I'm lucky to always be every day talking to children. Okay? So ang kids ko often tease me and say na para akong ang bata, para na rin ako parang pasyente ko. So in a way, they keep you grounded, being with children and talking to them. At ito ang mga natutunan ko sa kanila. Children are very honest. Hindi marunong magkunwari yan. Pretending is something they learn as they grow up. Children say what they mean and they show you talaga how they feel. Tawag natin dun sa they show how they feel is their behavior. Kung galit, galit sila. Kung frustrated, nagtatantrum, di ba? And when you ask them, why did you grab? Because I wanted his food. Honest talaga sila. Next is, children show you unconditional love. I'm a doctor ng child protection. So, nakaka-interview ako ng mga children who have been abused, even tortured. Isang case na talaga naiyak ako, itong 8-year-old boy was talking about how his father hurt him. Talagang pinapalo siya, sinasaktan siya, tinotorture niya. Pero the way he talked about it, parang matter of factly. Tapos, sinasabi pa rin niya, mahal niya yung dad niya. Okay? And he forgives his dad and he understands why his dad did that to him. What do you call that? Grabe yung unconditional love. And you see that in children. And sana naman yung adults do not abuse this unconditional love. Kasi many times we take our children for granted. Actually, yung mga tao sa bahay, we take them for granted. That's true. We are kinder to strangers. We are kinder to other people who you hardly know. Kung titingnan mo, ang children are the most powerless and voiceless in society. Kaya nga sinabi sila ang pinaka-vulnerable. Kaya dapat protektahan. Okay? So sinong mas mababa sa, siguro yung pinaka vulnerable, yung mga poorest of the poor, yung mga taong kalye. Meron pa bang mas sa kanila, mas mababa sa the poorest of the poor? Yung anak nila. Because their children are under their control. So these kids talaga are dependent on their parents. And pag inisip mo rin, sino pa mas mababa dito sa mga batang ito? Yung alaga nilang hayop. Kaya if you can be kind to children and animals, you are truly kind. Because it doesn't require you to be kind if to strangers or people in power. Kasi you show kindness out of fear. But ang children and animals, sila pinakamababa. If you are kind to them, you can be kind to anyone. Okay. So ano yung pinaka-key to being kind? I simplified into 4 things lang. It's not about you. It is about the other person. Okay, so when you think beyond yourself, ang tawag dyan maturity. Mga bata, di ba? Siyempre, all children are born self-centered. Ang mundo, the world, revolves around them. But ang gusto natin, matuto nila na it's not about them, and that requires maturity. In our part, being a parent is a vocation and a blessing, and it helps us to mature. Another thing, intention is important. The intent to teach is the most important thing. Hindi dapat intention natin to control our children, to suppress their will na para tayo ang masunod. Hindi rin to impress others. But if your intent is to teach, then you will be kind. And to be able to teach, kailangan you understand the perspective of the other. In other words, naintindihan mo yung bata. Paano maintindihan yung bata? Kausapin mo. Kailangan you listen to them, you ask questions and talk to them. Huwag tayong humusga sa intention nila. So let's not judge them by their outward behavior or by their how they look. Kasi we have to understand yung kanilang pag-intindi sa sitwasyon. And lastly, the best way talaga is to teach by example. Kasi children learn best pag nakikita nila at na-experience yung kindness din. So actually yung sinasabi ko being hurtful to animals, yan sign din yan na it's a cry for help na itong bata may problema. 'Di ba yung mga psychopathology, you look at a child who's hurting animals. Kasi yun ang sign na they're also being hurt. So if you want your child to be kind, kailangan ipakita mo rin yon. Pero it's easier said than done. Okay? Sa totoo lang, you want to be kind, but you always parang you fall short of it. Nagkakamali ka, but then I think you have to stand up and try again. So for children, it's important what they see, feel, and perceive. So be careful with your words. Let's not be hurtful. Be careful how you say things. And be mindful of your actions. Okay? So it doesn't mean to say na importante yung panlabas, yung appearances don't matter. But for children, kasi very visual sila, it's very important that they see and perceive your kindness. Pero they also feel your spirit of kindness, no? Kaya hindi pwedeng panlabas lang. Talagang kailangan you have to work for change in yung interior spirit mo. Kailangan mo rin to continually work on that para it will also affect yung outward or external mo kung manggagaling sa loob. Okay? So I think that's the short presentation that I have.
Thank you very much po, Dr. Manalo. Nag-effort pa po talaga kayo na gumawa ng slides. Thank you very much. Ang ganda po nung sinabi ni Dr. about kindness. Totoo nga po na children are very sensitive. They really perceive what parents really, even things that parents don't say, they really feel it. And you really have to be good examples to them. Ito, Dr. Manalo, may question po ako. Di ba we want children to be kind? Kaya lang, Doctor, hindi po kaya mabully sila pag masyado po silang kind?
Well, kasi nga ang perception natin, kailangan yung anak natin manlaban. 'Di ba? Kasi parang atin yun ayaw natin, we don't want to see them. Kasi ating judgment din na kawawa sila. Okay, but maybe if you ask them, na parang, oh, why did you let him get your food? Baka gusto niya naman mag-share. So actually, we should encourage children to be kind. And yung if kasi if you say you also hit back, 'di ba? Violence begets violence. And actually, sa totoo lang masyado nag-i-interfere yung magulang. Mas nagiging problema kasi inherently children learn how to sort things out themselves. Okay? So ang role ng magulang 'yan, talagang mag-intervene pag nananakit na. Okay? But hindi ako din na you fight back kasi parang 'di ba it goes against really what we what we teach. Okay? So gusto mo maging kind yung bata pero idapa mo rin or suntukin mo rin siya. Maguguluhan din yung bata dun sa message na yan.
Totoo nga po yan, Doc. Mahalaga talaga ang consistent message and mahalaga nga rin ang example natin. Pero minsan, ano kaya minsan kasi sasabihin nila, kailangan natin na turuan sila na maging tough kasi tough ang mundo. So, kailangan medyo sanayin natin dun sa mga, let's say, sa mga teasing. Is this a good way to do it? And then how can we respond? Sabi nga po natin na sometimes we would have to intervene kung talagang merong nananakit. What would be the best way also for parents to respond to this?
Well, yung attitude na being tough, I mean, that's why we have many problems in the world because nga we always think we have to teach our children to be tough, no? May time din yan, but when they're young, you don't teach that toughness. It comes about nga when they encounter problems at tinutulungan niyo sila to resolve the problems in the proper way. Okay. So yung pananakit, if you can give me an example, yung parang sa playground tinulak yung anak mo. So ang usually impulse ng either papagalitan mo yung batang nagtulak sa anak mo, bullying yan, adult ka. So sasabihin mo lang, kasi you have to teach, making it positive, you tell the other child, you say excuse me first and can you wait your turn or you want to go first. So sasabihin mo din sa anak mo, okay, you let him go first. Diba? Pero syempre as a parent, ang gusto mo, ayaw mong maapi yung anak mo. In perception mo na aapi yung anak mo. So ang dyan is, would you react based on emotion or would you react in a way na you want to teach the child something positive?
Doc, napakaganda nga yung tanong na yan. And then, isa pa nga sa mga common questions regarding na-mention nga po ninyo yung playground. Minsan nakikita ko nga yung mga moms, they would feel heartbroken kasi sabi nila, my child wants so much to play with other kids pero meron siyang nilalapitan na ibang mga bata. Tapos yung ibang mga bata, ayaw naman siyang kalaro. So, anong mga pwede kong gawin? I see that this is a common problem. Kaya paano kaya po, minsan merong mga magulang talaga, kating-kating na to intervene for their kids, because they want their kids to have friends, they want their kids to be
Oo.
happy. So how do we help them navigate these
Mm.
problems in real life social skills? Kung tutuusin, ito ang totoo nga sabi ninyo, ito ang nagde-develop ng toughness sa kanila. Hindi yung tayo, we are creating artificial situations para matuto silang maging tough. Pero how can we help them navigate these tough situations?
Mm. Well, like di ba, it also depends on the skills ng bata. So, usually kung yung bata medyo delayed, hindi makasalita, hindi ma-express ang sarili, so other children will, they can't read his mind. So maybe you can act as an interpreter na you can say, oh, yung anak ko parang hindi siya marunong mag-ask, but maybe he wants to play with you. Maybe parang you will have to also interpret for your child, no? If you tell other kids naman, he wants to play but he doesn't know how to baka you can show him how to play, paano siya imbitahan, no? So may mga ganyan na parang kung may deficit din sa skills yung bata, hirap din sila to express to other children. And then may isa akong natutunan sa isang mother kasi one of yung anak niya may developmental problem kaya masungit, nagtatantrum. So tinanong ng kaklase dun sa mom, why is your child like that? Bakit siya lagi umiiyak? Bakit siya masungit? Yung nanay natuto na rin kasi syempre na-hurt siya. But then the mother actually told this child, then you teach her how to be nice. Ginano niya yung isang bata. So parang yung bata, napaisip. So nasa magulang din how to engage their child to do the right thing and to say it in a positive way.
Thank you po, Doctora. Important nga po, no? Di ba kasi ngayon, we notice that a lot of parents are overprotective. They tend to, may term nga po sila, di ba, the lawnmower parents. Parang they clear out all the obstacles and problems for their children. But in reality, we're robbing them of opportunities to solve problems, to mature enough. As parents, yung role niyo po is to help them, but not, di ba, do everything for them na hindi na sila matutong mag-isip, matutong mag-engage sa ibang bata. So yun po yung something to keep in mind. Okay? Hindi po natin kailangan i-solve lahat ng problems ng mga anak natin.
Actually, sabi ko nga, yung mga bata, they can resolve it on their own. Magugulat ka, di ba mga bata, mamaya magkaaway, mamaya magkalaro. Wala kang ginawa. They just nagbatian na sila.
Yeah, tama po. 'Di ba? Bigyan natin ng trust. Like magtiwala po tayo sa mga anak natin, especially if we know that we taught them well. Okay, Doctor, ito na po yung next question ko. So how do you teach a child to behave properly? What is the best way to discipline them or to train them to behave properly?
Well, yung behave, no, to a child is so, 'di ba, abstract. Pag sinabi mo sa atin behave, parang what do you mean? So children are wired to learn. Talagang it's a thrust, it's a developmental thrust that they want to learn. So that's why yung tuturuan natin. What do we mean by behave? Or you talk softly. Instead of saying don't run, you say walk slowly. And then instead of yung pag mabigat yung kamay, don't hit, you say let's touch this gently. Okay? So also the language of making it positive, because a child really, a child who's trying to learn something and you tell them, don't, does it really mean anything to a child? Sabi, ang isip ng bata, di anong gagawin ko? Hindi, it goes against their nature to stop them because they're at the stage na they're trying to learn, they're exploring. And part of this is what works sa behavior. So actually, nag-experiment din sila with their parents, with the whole surroundings. And they appreciate it, really, if you tell them, let's do it this way. Maybe this is better. Or you show them how, instead of, you behave, stop that, behave. Parang, I'm a little kid, what do you really mean by that?
Totoo nga po yan, Doc. No? Minsan talaga we have unreasonable expectations for what we expect our kids to be able to do. Parang minsan they're already tired, they're already hungry, we don't even realize it, or they're overwhelmed. And minsan we tend to put adult motives into what children do. I remember, Doc, this is something that I learned from you also from one of your lectures before. Sometimes kasi we get questions from parents, ay anong gagawin namin? Kunyari, kalaro na yung pinsan niya. Tapos namamalo siya. Ano yun? Selos siya? Or galit siya dun sa taong yun? But that is actually us putting an adult interpretation in it. Malay nga po natin na pagod pala siya or antok pala siya. And what can we do when, how many times do we have to remind a child? Like, what if we've already told a child several times na touch gently, tapos namamalo pa rin? Minsan kasi parents get worried na parang, hala, ilang beses ko na sinabi, bakit ganito pa lang siya? So they start to worry na they might start to label their kid na, paano yun, lalaki ba siya na naging namamalo? Or am I being a bad parent? Lalo na minsan yung mga kamag-anak, nakatingin na, tapos napapressure na siya na to make the child behave. Sometimes there's a pressure, there's this pressure also on parents to make a child behave, lalo na pag may ibang mga nanunood. So, ano pong pwedeng gawin ng mga parents in this situation kung feeling nila na ilang beses na din ang nasabi? At parang bumabalik pa rin yung behavior na hindi ka nais-nais.
Well, I think we just should be patient kasi iba-iba din ang learning curve ng mga bata eh. So there are children na talagang they're harder. It's harder, it takes longer. And these are usually children na may mga issues din. They have some developmental sensory issues. No? They have a short attention span or they have high impulsivity. Pero it just tells you that being a parent, if you understand what they're coming from, you have to be more patient with them. So sabi, if it takes them 7 times, 7 times, 7 times, then talagang you really have to be patient with them. At saka yung intent, no? Yung intent na dapat yung tanggalin sa isip na parang nahihiya ako. So you are thinking about how you are being perceived by others instead of ang focus mo dapat paano mo tulungan yung anak mo. How will you help your child? I'm sure this child is also frustrated na he cannot control himself. Hi, Jake! Hi, Jake!
Hi! Oo, totoo nga po yan, no? Kasi I also like to give this analogy, di ba? When our kids were learning to walk, ilang beses ba sila nadapa bago sila nakalakad ng diretsyo? So, why is it with behavior, we expect them to get it right away. So the same patience that we gave them when learning to walk, that should be the same patience that we apply with behavior. O, pasensya na po. Kasi bagong gising po siya. Dapat nga po mas maaga siya nagising, di ba? Sabi nila dapat, pero yun nga. So I guess that's something that even as pediatricians and developmental pediatricians, we still have the same parenting challenges and all that our audience does. So we really can relate with the challenges.
Oo. Yung naman kasi di ba there are some kids na they easily get it. The kids na you see that have a harder time picking these things up, it just means talaga we have to work harder and be more patient. But they will get there, lalo na if we, hindi tayo mag-give up on them.
Paano po, Doktora, kunwari si Mommy nagdi-discipline, tapos si Daddy or si Lola parang hindi po masyadong nagdi-discipline. Ano po mangyayari kaya sa bata noon?
Mako-confuse. Ang bata kasi, magaling yung mga bata, tinitignan na yung pattern. Diba? Works here, what doesn't work here. Actually, they're very observant. Kasi nga, yun ang power ng children Kasi powerless sila, observant sila. So, akala natin they're not observing. They're actually, So, some children na mabilis mag-pick up, learn to manipulate their parents. Alam nila. The others are confused. So, lalong hindi sila nag-improve in terms of their behavior. So, I think dapat mag-usap yung mga tao sa family na there are certain dapat you're on the same page, you're consistent, okay? Yun may mga parang household rules, basic rules. Ipaskel sa sa wall para hindi makalimutan ng mga adults. The adults themselves forget kasi sometimes we're driven by our emotions. Yung sinasabi being mindful, you have to think before you react. Okay? So, ang bata, may karapatan mag-react kasi bata pa sila. They're driven by their emotions. Pero sana adults are more conscious that they're more mature, that they are more capable of controlling their reactions and feelings. Okay? Kaya dapat ang mindful. Di ba? Your intent is to teach. So always think, yung response ko, anong tinuturo sa bata?
Natatawa po ako, Doktora, kasi sabi ko, estudyante nga ako ni Doktora Manalo kasi yan din po yung mga sinasabi ko sa mga parents. Napulot ko po yun sa inyo. Yun nga, I actually use the same words. I just realized na they have to be on the same page. So yun po yung parang modeling, para po ko anak ni Doktora Manalo na I saw, kung ano po yung nakita ko sa kanya, yun din po yung ginagawa ko. So that's an example of parenting me as her student. So, paano din po pala, what can you say po about yung pamamalo? Kasi 'di ba parang dito sa Pilipinas, it's still kind of acceptable. Tapos sa Western countries, nandun na po sila sa no spanking policy. Pero sinasabi po nila, marami pa din pong behavioral problems nakikita. Can you comment on that po?
Well, spanking is it's a form of child abuse, no? Kasi ang spanking, anong isipong intention? What does it teach the child? Yung sinabi ko, modeling behavior. So a child will learn na when you're frustrated, you have to hurt somebody. Yun ang message eh. Pag galit ka, you have to hurt. Kasi nakikita, sometimes spanking is really, it's an out, yung parents, frustration din ng magulang na nainis na, pinapalo nila. So, teaching by example, it will just teach children to hit when they are mad, when they are frustrated. Kaya ang talaga dyan, it's really, in terms of child protection, it's a no-no. It's a no-no because it won't discipline children. They will need more and more pain hanggang sumunod sila. So parang addiction na yan eh. Papaluin mo sila and then nagiging immune na sila. So iaangat mo na naman yung level ng pain para sumunod sila. So it's a vicious cycle. And it will create a person later on who when in pain will strike and hit out kasi yun ang outlet niya.
Totoo nga po yun, Doc. I know there are many people who will say na, hindi, okay lang yan okay lang yan. Kasi ako, pinalo rin ako nung bata, okay naman ako ngayon. But, of course, not all scars are visible. And even if they think na okay, meron talagang yung iba na nakikita talaga nila na there is, kahit papano, some effect on the relationship with their parents. And totoo nga po, napakahalaga talaga ang social modeling. Because napakahalaga
sabi niya?
ang social modeling kasi they had this experiment.
Ano sabi ni Jake?
Oo nga, ano sabi niya? Meron din siya opinion niya. They had this experiment that they saw an adult spanking a doll. And then after that, pinakita nila na they were more likely actually to spank their playmates after they saw an adult spanking a doll. So talagang nagagaya yan. Oo.
Gaya-gaya. Kasi 'di ba, very powerful nga ang children are great imitators. And they may not understand things, they will imitate what they see.
That's true. And they really learn more from what we do rather than from what we say, because what we really want actually is for them to do what we do. for them to do what we say, but actually as long mas napipick up talaga nila kung ano yung ginagawa natin.
Ginagawa mo.
Ang isa lang nga yung worry, ang isa lang ang worry ng ang isa lang nga, nako, sakto, we are teaching emotional regulation. Ito yung mga topic natin. So yun, at this age talaga, especially during the younger years, they learn regulation by co-regulation eh. Ang worry lang naman po nila, Doc, is if I don't spank my child, baka maging spoiled ang anak ko. So, what can you do about that? Saan po ba nanggagaling ang spoiling? Does it come from a lack of punishment or a lack of spanking?
No. Actually, spoiling comes from parents who give their children everything. Okay, so children grow up thinking, money grows on trees, they're entitled to everything. Kaya actually, maganda din na may adversity din yung bata. So we create situations to, frustrate them and, maybe deprive them of certain things, no? Because we're in small doses, we're teaching them, that's how we toughen them up. Now they can't have everything. Okay? So baka mamaya kasi, baka umiiyak yung bata, bibigay mo yung gusto niya. What does that teach the child? It teaches them na effective yung magwala. Nakukuha ko yung gusto ko pag nagtatantrum ako. Okay? So that's what creates a spoiled person if you give in to everything they want. But not spanking is not going to, if you don't spank them, they'll grow up to be gentler and kinder. So those that you spank are medyo talaga, may tendency rin to hurt others, to lash out at others when they themselves are hurt.
So Doctoria, if you don't recommend spanking, tapos we talked about modeling good behaviors, are there also other ways to effectively discipline children? Ano pong ibang other examples po?
Well, I said kanina, disciplining, ang intention mo is to teach. Okay? It's not to control them and it's not to suppress their will. Kasi you will destroy a person. Pag dinidisempower mo yung tao, you do everything for that person or you order them to do everything you want, hindi mag-grow yung personality nila. So yung is your intent to teach them. So you discipline by showing them another way to do it. Diba? Nagwawala, nagtatantrum. Ignore mo. And then, but you have to also enable them later on. Pag hindi na sila nagtatantrum, pag nag-cool down na sila, then show them. Or you can ask for it nicely. Or you can fix your toys, pick them up. O pag kayo, then I will give you something. Diba? Yung sabi yung reward appropriate behaviors, ignore behaviors you don't like. So, ang bata gusto attention. That's all children want, attention. So if you ignore them, nagtatantrum sila, isipin nila it's not effective. They'll try to figure out another way. So what's effective? But it's easier if you teach them. Oh, you do this, then you will get, you can get this. So we have to teach them to work for something they want. They want something, put in the work.
Tama po. Kailangan magtrabaho sila. Ito din po, Doctor, I noticed with a lot of parents nowadays, they're so scared na hindi sila ma-offend nila yung mga anak nila or ayaw nilang magalit yung mga anak nila sa kanila. Parang yung mga parents ngayon yung nagtitiptoe around their children na kahit as simple as vaccination, ay teka, parang baka magalit yung anak ko kung pabakunahan ko. So they're very worried na hindi na sila magustuhan ng anak nila.
Oo, well, dangerous, yan,
Napapansin ko po, baka magalit.
Oo, well, it's all right na magalit sila. Kasi children have to have a little adversity in their life and a little pain. Just have to explain it. Okay? So you can give them a choice. Bakunahan. You want it here or you want it there? Hindi yung, you want it or not? No, which arm do you want
Ah.
it? So that's a technique kasi you give them choice, but you limit the choices.
Correct.
Yes, that is true. That is also something that I learned from Doc Stella, giving them choices within limits. Because sometimes we are on the side of being too authoritarian, na sabi, ay dapat ganito talaga, we give them no choice. And sometimes you also see that, lalo na sa social media ngayon, there's some parenting advice that errs on the side of permissiveness, na they give too much autonomy too soon. Like, for example, ayaw nga daw, sabi ni, meron pa nga nagsasabi na, ay, pag toddler, dapat hindi ka pwede maglagay ng fence because this kills autonomy of the toddler. But that's not true because that will give limits to the child. So, maganda nga po yung tinuro sa atin ni Doktora na we give children age-appropriate freedom within limits. And, Doc, we have another question regarding not offending our kids kasi minsan natatakot tayo dito. Who has the right to discipline our kids? Kasi minsan merong mga magulang na yung magulang mismo ang nagagalit pag napagsasabihan ng, for example, ng teachers, yung mga anak nila. So who would have the right?
Well, basically, it's really the right of the parents, okay? But also, may ano na rin yung community, okay? Pero under the law, it's parental right talaga to discipline their children the best way. Kaya nga, if we see that there is a problem, we go towards parental education. Kasi we're helping the child by helping the parents. So teachers also have to be careful, but they can bring it to the attention of the parents. Pero teachers also have to be careful kasi minsan teachers are they are formed by their own background and experiences. So they have to be also careful, lalo na in the way they speak to a child and what they say, because a child can be easily traumatized by what a person or like their teacher or their parent, how they say things and what they say. So ang trauma yan, hanggang pagkalaki maaalala nila. And that's not how we want it to be. And I think everybody who's disciplining a child, yung discipline is done in a kind and loving way. Actually, yung mga adults who are ang galing-galing na tao, they're so kind and pag tinignan mo yung background nila, ang magulang nila chill lang. Magulang nila hindi, yung parang they don't impose things, but they allow the child to learn their lesson. But they will not also give in. Na parang, parang okay, like may tinapon yung bata, magagalit yung magulang or aayusin. But then you make the child pick up their mess. Turuan mo, o you wanna fix that? Because there are consequences. If you did something, children have to own up to consequences. Hindi dapat nandiyan na yung magulang nagpi-pick up ng lahat ng nila, ng kalat nila or gulo nila. And we also have to allow children to make mistakes. It's all right. Nobody's perfect. Pag magkamali sila, wag naman sobrang yung nagagalit tayo. Hindi tayo perfect. We tend to get mad, di ba? Frustrated tayo. But a better approach really is to be chill about it. Okay, what did you do wrong? So yung bata magko-confess. I did something wrong, ma'am. Okay, it's good. Thank you for admitting it. Because you admitted it, I will reward you. You choose your punishment or you choose your consequence. Okay? Will you not watch TV for 1 week? Or will you clean your room every day? So pipiliin niya. So, 'di ba? Instead of getting mad, kasi ang mangyayari niyan, ang mga bata, pag nagkamali, gusto nila itago kasi yung kasalanan nila, kasi they know, of course it's normal to avoid punishment na masigawan ka. But how will we encourage them to tell the truth? If when they tell the truth, we get mad at and scream at them and then punish them severely. We should actually reward them when they tell the truth.
Totoo yan, Doc, no? I think that's really a shift in thinking that we have to make as parents, and that's also one of the things that we learned from you. Kasi minsan, ang instinct natin, for example, merong bata na hindi gumawa ng assignment. So sa sermonan natin, sasabihin natin, ano ba, bakit hindi ka gumawa ng assignment? Tagal-tagal ko din sinasabi, ganyan. And then ang haba-haba ng sermon. And then in the end, we also end up rescuing the child kasi yung parent yung gumagawa ng assignment. So what if we have another shift in thinking? Instead of doing that, we don't give the sermon, but at the same time, we also don't rescue them. But of course, if it happens na talagang recurring na may problema sa assignment, then of course, we have to check. Baka there is something going on, kaya hirap siya gumawa ng assignment. Is there a learning disability? That's why that's also one of the things that we post about also in this channel to talk about child development. So tama nga po, Doc, we should resist the urge to fix our child's problems and to make everything okay for them, tulad ng sabi ni Doc Pusi, yung lawnmower parenting. Ang isa pa po common concern, Doc, is sometimes moms will ask na, what can I do if there is another child who is misbehaving towards me? Like, meron silang experience. Kunyari, may ibang bata na sinisipa sila or sinisipa yung anak nila, and then the parent is just allowing that behavior. So, how do they set boundaries on how the child can behave towards them, but in a way that is healthy and respectful for both the child and for the parent?
So, yung batang sumisipa, anak niya or anak ng
Hindi
iba?
po. Anak ng, let's say, anak ng ibang tao, sinisipa siya, or sinisipa yung anak niya, or maybe there is or maybe it's a public place, and then for example, somebody who is working in that establishment, meron siyang nakikita na bata na naninira ng property sa establishment na yon, and then the parents are just allowing it. So I guess in other words, specific situations that you are already being affected by, let's say, somebody else's permissive parenting. What can you do about it that will set your boundaries, but at the same time will respect the other parent also?
Well, I would talk to that kid. Oh, why are you doing that? Diba? Find out what's going on with this kid. Oh, what are you doing? Diba? Why are you doing that? Then you'll, from there, they mo, parang, baka curious siya. Or baka, do you want somebody to pay attention to you? Baka pag you paid attention, magsa-stop na siya manira. Yung pala, ang kailangan niya, some attention. Okay? But syempre, titingnan mo kung yung bata pala, non-verbal. may siya. That's his, di ba? Yung behavior is the way they're trying to communicate something.
Totoo nga yan. Behavior is really the way that children can communicate, and lahat ng mga behaviors ng mga bata are trying to tell us something. Kahit minsan hindi natin naiintindihan kung ano yung kino-communicate nila, but that is how they tell us. And sometimes we have to be age appropriate also in our expectations for how they are able to act and how they are able to regulate their emotions.
Yeah, and mahirap din kasi yung, di ba, some parents, they don't appreciate unsolicited advice. Yeah. But if they see that you're trying to help the child, and baka sila pa lumapit, she doesn't know you're a doctor. It's really like that, when we're in a new place. And so they try to explain, and siguro from there, you have to be sensitive to the direction of the conversation. Pero mahirap magbigay ng advice pag hindi hinihingi, di ba?
Tama,
Pero
sensitive
art.
na lang po tayo. Yeah, we have to be sensitive to na lang and read the social cues of what the other parent is also trying to convey. Tama si Doc. Art din po siya.
Oh, art. Magaling na tayo dyan after a while. We feel the vibes of the parents, and there is a different approach for every kind of parent. There's a way to talk to them. Kasi nga yung trabaho natin sa DevPedia, hindi lang yung bata tinitingnan natin, di ba? We also assess the parent. Because the issues of the child is not only about the child. I mean, the child is the product of this environment and experiences. So it's so important that we see what's going on in this child's life. That's part of what we do. It's not just all about the child.
Agree. Sinasabi ko din nga po yan sa mga therapist, Doktora, na when we have patients, we tend to be very patient-centered, but literature says na dapat family-centered po yung approach natin. Sila po lahat.
Thanks for doing that.
Alam na po ng mga therapists that I work with, yan po palaging sermon ko.
I taught you well.
Diba? Tama, Doktor. Ilang buwan po ba ako nag-observe sa inyo, Doktor? Tagal-tagal din po yun eh.
Totoo yan. That's an example of parenting. Si Doc Stella is really a mentor and like a mom to us. Actually, ninang ko po si Doc Stella. Pati po si Doc Alexis, one of our other guests, sila po yung talagang aming mga mentors and aming mga ninang. So, we were really very fortunate to learn from them. And
kung mag-aasawa po ako si Doc Stella ninang din. Kung po.
And it also makes our heart big talaga when we see na how well you are doing and what kind of people you have become. Ganon din sa anak, di ba? When you see na, your child is independent, is kind, parang, done my job.
Okay, may mga questions pa po ba, Dr. Yang? Tapos na po tayo, no?
I think we covered a lot during this 1 hour. Talagang maraming salamat talaga sa time na binigay sa atin ni Doc Stella because she is actually very, very busy. All our guests here are really very busy, so we thank them for the time that they gave us to talk with our audience about yung mga common concerns and yung mga pressing concerns.
And siguro I'd like to also say na we can, we're not perfect. Nobody really is perfect. You have as a parent, you tell yourself you want to be good, you want to do this, and then you fall, and then you fail. But then ang dyan is that you try again. You also have to be patient with yourself. Parang, alam ko lahat naman ng parents, they have good intentions. Siyempre, pag anak mo yan you want the best for your child. They just need help, really. Guidance in doing it, from people who have had experience. So yun lang naman ang ating we've studied it, we have maybe more experience, but for all, nobody's perfect, no? Maski we always struggle. Hirap maging magulang, no?
Totoo yan, Doc. Lalo na ngayon, actually, feeling ko naging mas mahirap naman maging magulang ngayon dahil sa social media. Kasi parang just look at Facebook and look at Instagram. Ang daming iba-ibang parenting advice, lahat conflicting. And then everybody seems to want to be the perfect parent that moms are starting to be critical of themselves already. Parang andyan lahat ng mga pictures of what all the other moms are doing. Na ganito yung ginagawa nila, ganito itsura ng playroom nila, it looks so perfect. Ganito yung ginagawa nilang meals, it looks so perfect. And nakaka-pressure na tuloy sa mga magulang. And sometimes, tama nga po sabi ninyo that they also have to be kind to themselves because they will feel bad. Sasabihin nila, I lost my patience today. So, they have this idea that because that happened, they're a bad parent. But that's not it, because everybody, we are all learning. We are all trying to do the best for our kids, and let's not be pressured by all that we see in social media. Tama nga po yung sabi ninyo na to talk to people who really have the authority to talk about it. So, could be your doctor, and that is also why we have this advocacy. Kasi madami talagang mga conflicting info na nakikita natin sa social media. Na kung lahat yun pakikinggan natin, talagang malilito tayo.
At saka hindi one solution fits all, because each family naman has their own situation. Diba? Iba-iba personalities, iba-iba yung kalagayan. Kaya nga I think there are general rules, but then it also has to be individualized. Kaya medyo, I think that's the role of the DevPedia. Kasi it really takes one-on-one to individualize the care of a child. Tayo taga-guide lang. Buti marami-rami na tayo kasi hindi naman kaya ng isang tao or 10 tao. Kailangan talaga maraming tao to help, maybe to help a family decide for themselves kung anong direction and what works best for them. Hindi rin tayo ang magdidikta. Kasi in the end, it's the family, the parents who understand their situation. Diba?
Any last words, Prof, from both of you before we end our talk?
I want to thank Dr. Stella Manalo for joining us today. There are so many words of wisdom. Actually, sa lahat ng mga sinasabi ni Doc Stella, ang dami doon na parang quotable quote na ang sarap ilagay sa infographic, di ba, Doc Kusi?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oo.
Okay. Dr. Manalo, do you have anything is there anything else that you would like to say?
Well, tama si Dr. Toyang na we are still learning and growing. Kasi if we feel that we know everything, ay delikado yan.
Yeah.
And also, ang important is also to allow children also that growth, and kasi that enhances critical thinking when they have to solve things for themselves. Kaya nga I also question the rigidity of our school system na sobrang overprescribe ang education, because learning hindi mo pwede ilagay ikahon yung learning. There should be some space for children to be flexible and creative. And I have faith that, like everybody, the children, they learn on their own despite us. I mean, hindi naman tayo yung they're not learning from us actually. Iba na sila mag-learn. Minsan hindi na natin naiintindihan how. But we have to, may mga basic values and rules. And I think it's really the relationship. What's important to preserve really is yung positive relationship and a loving relationship. Even in doing homework, I mean, it shouldn't be negative. Diba? It should, pipiliin mo na yun, ano bang gusto mo, ma-accomplish yan, or okay pa yung relationship nyo. And sometimes I end up not telling my children, oh, that's not important. Never mind that.
Maganda pa yung sinabi niya, Doc, about relationship. I once attended a seminar in church about parenting. Meron po siyang sinabi na, I'll read it, rules without relationship equals to rebellion. Relationship naman without rules equals to chaos. But relationship plus rules equals to respect and responsibility.
Ang ganda niya. That's a wonderful ending statement.
So, maraming salamat po, Dr. Stella Manalo, for your time. We really had a good time this afternoon. We learned so much. Thank you din po, Dr. Yang. And please don't forget, if you don't want to miss any of our other videos, please don't forget to like and subscribe and click on the notification bell of our channel. Maraming salamat po.